Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
It makes you realize that if there's even one thing we can do to keep our children and our community safe, there's just one step we can take to prevent more families from feeling what they feel after they've lost a loved one.
In 2012, there were more blacks aborted in New York City than born, which is to say, while people will march up and down the streets for high-profile slayings, many of those same people don't seem to care that the biggest scourge to their communities isn't gangs or drugs, but the right to choose. Equally chilling is that over 50% of aborted babies in Georgia are black. One of the most visible processors of abortion is Planned Parenthood, which was once known as the Birth Control League, a Margaret Sanger organization.
Eugenics movement was once again used by the American Birth Control League. The Margaret Sangers of those days did not come out and say they were trying to eliminate black people. What they did say, they were trying to rid society of the feeble-minded. They were trying to rid the society of the criminal. Well, she was successful simply because of her eugenics friends for the past 50 years had put those labels on minorities and African Americans, and therefore society was more or less desensitized. In effect, the code words hid the agenda of Margaret Sanger and the eugenists.
Whether you're pro-choice or not, please be aware that the reason Planned Parenthood buildings are so prevalent in minority neighborhoods is to kill minorities.
Dump it on the taxpayer. You understand? Don't put it on the taxpayer, okay? I don't wish to pay for the baby with my money. Okay, you get it?
You would rather profit off of those children?
No, I'm not profiting. I, as a taxpayer, do not wish to pay for those babies to be born and brought up and kill those people in Colorado. Go ahead and pay for that. Let me see you adopt one of those ugly black babies, okay?
In Mississippi, 72% of aborted babies are black. The numbers also show that more than a few white children are regularly aborted. It's a shame when anyone is murdered, even when the murderer happens to be your own mother. Many women are led to believe that their child isn't a person until it's actually born.
When do you think life starts?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's controversial. I don't know that it's really relevant to the conversation. But I mean, for me, I'm a mother of 3 children. For me, life began when I delivered them.
Many naysayers will tell you that the majority of Planned Parenthood's operation doesn't involve abortion. Well, can we get rid of the percent that does involve abortion? The work of Sanger is still alive and well today, with the likes of Mrs. Clinton singing her praises.
I admire Thomas Jefferson. I admire his words and his leadership, and I deplore his unrepentant slaveholding. I admire Margaret Sanger, being a pioneer in trying to empower women to have some control over their bodies, and I deplore statements that you have referenced. That is the way we often are when we look at flawed human beings. There are things that we admire and things we deplore.
I rarely agree with Mrs. Clinton on anything, but she's right to point out that President Jefferson also treated blacks in a less than human fashion. He should also be known for the 1807 Act prohibiting importation of slaves.
Yes, Jefferson was a slaveholder, but he included bold anti-slavery language in the original draft of the Declaration of Independence. That was removed. As president on March 2nd, 1807, Jefferson signed the act prohibiting importation of slaves. This act took effect in 1808 and was the earliest allowed under the Constitution.
So the next time someone demands that you give up your rights to save just one child, remind them that their pro-choice stance has killed millions since Roe v. Wade. You can find more reports at Infowars.com.
You have 43% of all abortions performed in this country performed on black babies. We're only 12% of the population. In the state of New York in 2008, more black babies were aborted than born. Now, it doesn't matter what your politics is on that. Again, those numbers, though, are very troubling.
Hi, folks. Alex Jones. That's a flashback to the 80s in the movie War Games, where the computer starts to launch a nuclear war on its own. And now we have, in the last 5 years, autonomous drones where the robots are making the decisions in the air. They just declassified that last year. That it had been going on for 4 years before that. We're now 5 years into it. The British, the French, the United States, all part of the NATO system now, are already shifting from pilots controlling the drones who get medals that are more prestigious than Purple Hearts, by the way, for their valor in the air-conditioned pods in the desert out in places like Arizona. Then, of course, places in Maryland. They're at CIA headquarters. It's absolutely ridiculous, and humans are being taken out of the equation. And when you see humans being taken out of the equation, you can get total government control of information. And this whole missing flight with this Malaysian Airlines that we're now a week and a half into is a giant distraction from the situation that's continuing to escalate in Ukraine with Russia and the EU, with the U.S. in the middle of it. It is distracting from Obamacare being an absolute nightmare. And while all this is going on, I monitor television, and I don't really watch mainline television, but I flip through it, or I'm in restaurants, or I'm at the gym, and all I see, this morning I was at the gym, was Obama. They have like 10 TVs in there in front of the bikes and ellipticals and treadmills. And every time I'd look up, working out, I would see Obama on ESPN chatting it up, doing a comedy piece. Or then I would see Obama on some Comedy Central show with a piece of it playing on the news. And then it would be Michelle Obama. And then it would be Hillary. And it was just all positive news. And see, they've lost control of the newspapers. They've lost control of the online news. The mainline dinosaur television's dead. I mean, MSNBC, CNN is just a total facade. Literally almost no viewers. It's a complete hoax, fraud, joke. Everybody knows that. But we need to focus more on the fact that about 80% of Americans don't even really watch news. That's on record. Some numbers are even higher, closer to 85%. They do watch the NFL. They do watch NBA. They do watch baseball. They do watch sitcoms. They do watch Comedy Central. They do watch all the, quote, entertainment, and it is just loaded with state propaganda and garbage. And it's been loaded for a long time, since the Cold War. That was kind of the excuse to have anti-communist propaganda in there. But that set the precedent now to where it's communist propaganda and globalist propaganda, and it goes on and on and on. Movie stars, rock stars, hip-hop stars, Justin Bieber, LeBron James, all these low-grade morons up there pushing Obamacare. Ladies and gentlemen, I try to watch any cop drama, any sitcom, anything. It is anti-male, anti-family, gay agenda. And again, I'm not even against anybody, but my Lord, you turn on the TV, gay, 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 gay. I mean, I'm sick of it, man. I mean, I like what Marilyn Monroe looks like, but I don't go watch her movies. Most of them are pretty stupid. Some like it hot's funny. But, I mean, I'm not going to watch a marathon on Turner Classic Movies of Marilyn Monroe. I sure don't want to watch a marathon of people making jokes against heterosexuals and talking about how great gay people are today. Folks, it's becoming a cult trying to dominate society, just like every other group becomes a cult throughout history. Before the Roman Empire collapsed, they had gay cults basically running it. And, I mean, it's just a major sign, and Camille Paglia, who's a lesbian, has written about this, that when all this stuff starts up and gets to this point, you get ready for society to collapse. The whole Olympics weren't about ice skating or downhill skiing or the ski jump. It was all about gay, 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 gay. I mean, I can't let my children watch any mainline television. I can't take them to movies. I have to pre-screen everything because they're assaulting them. And then the kids out there, doesn't matter if my kids don't see all this, other kids do. And you would think that there isn't a universe out there, there aren't any discoveries. It's all just what Michelle Obama wore today and what Hillary's doing and how great she is and how fantastic everything is, you know, in the government, and how wonderful Obamacare is, and how wonderful tap water is, and how wonderful vaccines are, and how horrible gun owners are. And I mean, it is just pure, unadulterated sludge. And you can tell how propagandized and how sick our society has gotten when you watch television. And the guys were able to pull it up. He was on, Obama, I guess, was on Sports Center yesterday, and they're putting it on every other channel. I mean, I can't watch. Sometimes I'm on a business trip, you know, covering a story. I'll get in at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock from working. I'll put on cable, try to watch the late night, you know, show, or try to watch something else. It's all about Obama making him a rock star, trying to prop up the facade. And now Obama, they're saying, wants to host ESPN. Is that the headline I just saw? Obama, I want to host ESPN Sports Center when I retire. I mean, this is just disgusting. It's all about how he's a regular guy, and he's on all these comedy shows and Funny or Die, and it just goes on and on. So I've directed years ago my crew, who are great people, my reporters, my investigative journalists, writers, everybody. We need to focus more on the entertainment, myself included, because we focus on news all day, but the way we're going to get to the general public is by hijacking their propaganda stories with Obama and the globalists and the rest of it and making fun of it via satire with review shows. And again, in amongst everything else I'm doing, if I had the time and energy, that's really my plan, is have like a 5-minute segment every night where I give commentary on the nightly news, on entertainment and propaganda, and review it and decipher it for people. And the problem isn't finding the propaganda. It's like you throw your nets into the ocean and the whole ship starts sinking because there's so many fish in the net. I mean, it is just an orgy, an explosion, a flash fire, flash flood of BS. And it makes my head spin. Meanwhile, flesh-eating bacteria is spreading all over the place. Super diseases are forming. GMO is getting into the DNA of humans, wrecking our genetics on record. Cancer's off the chart. I mean, you know, we are in a mega crisis. Humanity is in a mega crisis, whether it's real in the economy or not. Regardless, whether it is unsustainable or they're making it unsustainable via Agenda 21, we are going on a civilization level, industrial level, collapse trajectory, guaranteed. British Ministry of Defense, Pentagon reports, NASA reports, Harry Dent, just Ron Paul, myself, countless others, Gerald Celente, just everyone knows who actually is studying things that we're on a collision course for incremental collapse. And it is engineered. Dent agreed with me yesterday. Because it's easier to not manage things well. It's easier not to build a renaissance because then you've got uppity, informed, powerful people that you've got to deal with, and then you can't keep control of everyone. So they've decided to only have high-tech reservations and government reservations and corporate reservations that are ultra-high-tech, ultra-luxury, ultra-security, literally in dome cities. In fact, that's what the elite say they're going to. Dome cities offshore. This is mainstream news. Dome cities in the country where they have filtered, domed cities. Domed reservations. And the rest of us are going to be outside of this with our resources pumped into these people as the robots then phase us out and replace us. We are being engineered. We are being acclimated. We are being actuaried. We are being phased in a long-term, full-spectrum warfare system to put our energy, our creativity into the building of the robot takeover technocracy that is only another phase into then having the robots be able to produce everything so we become fully domesticated and at the whim of the robots for social engineering to then phase us out with controlled plagues, bio-attacks, chemical engineering, bioengineering. I mean, you think 10,000+% increase in pediatric cancer is bad now. Try 100,000 in 20 years. So just, and if you start saying the government did it, the robot SWAT team's going to arrive and kill your butt. And everybody else will say, be quiet. They've got the treatments to help us. You know, when half your kids have already died of cancer. And it's a total control system, and I've seen their whole plan and how they're rolling it out. And they're quite public about it as well. So while you're busy worried about the Malaysian flight and Michelle Obama's biceps, the snapping turtle's biceps, we are going into a high-tech hell pit. Every day, scores of news articles come across my desk like this one. Bridgeport man faces felony after speaking too long at township board meeting. Yeah, that's in Bridgeport Township. And that's the same thing goes on here in Austin, Texas. The mayor threatens to arrest people and says it like he's the king of the earth if they're not, quote, polite to him, and says it in a real chilling voice. You might as well just wear a Darth Vader helmet like the guy from Spaceballs and imagine he's powerful. Because they're perched on top of us, folks. They know they have a 6% approval rating. And they hope the police, whose pension funds they've already robbed, are going to go along with them while they gut everything. Because freedom threatens them. But I see stacks of these articles every day. I mean, literally. A Bridgeport man faces a felony charge after he was arrested by police at a township board meeting when he refused to stop talking past the 3-minute time limit for public comment. He was arrested during the meeting by police officers after violating the township's 3-minute time limit for people making public comments and refusing to stop talking when township officials told him to. It was the man's 59th birthday, according to public records. And they're now charging him with felonies for it. And there's video now that's been released of the meeting. And they just go on to say that he'd filed Public Information Act request, and they're charging him with a felony. So better not go talk or you'll be disappeared. And there's video of that. Now, continuing, here's another one. CBS News, Connecticut. Gun tattoo mistakenly brings heavily armed police to Maine man's home. They were looking through the window while they trimmed his trees, and he was asleep, he works at night, and saw a tattoo of a gun, which, by the way, last time I checked in Maryland was still legal if you jump through the hoops. And the police came, a SWAT team. And by the way, folks, I've told you about the carpet cleaner 15 years ago. 2 carpet cleaners, the cleaner and his assistant, went in my radio studio at my house at the time. And there was a shotgun on the wall. Didn't have children then. Pump shotgun. Winchester Defender, $300 shotgun. And they freaked out. And the guy said, I can't do this, and left and called the police on me. Because that gun was illegal. Of course, it wasn't illegal, but they don't care. That's how America works. People all over Texas I know who have big ranches, small ranches, you name it. I don't care if you live in the middle of nowhere. The police are coming when you shoot because the Californians have now colonized us, and they rule with an iron fist of power. They see you yell at your kid when they're out in the street or spank them. That's not against the law. CPS is coming. And if they can, they're going to sell your kid down the river and put them on a bunch of drugs. Because they rule. This is their country now. And they love the government abusing them. They love tripling in healthcare prices. They love death panels because LeBron James said so. And just like the man we're showing on screen clearly doesn't resist him, the police, like in a third world dictatorship, grab him,
yep, this is going on,
drag him out, and charge him with a felony. And let me tell you, they'll get a jury in that town to put him in jail for 10 years. And then their neighbors will put them in jail, too, because they like it. They want this country to go down. They want due process out the window, and they're going to get it. Gun tattoo mistakenly brings heavily armed police to Maine man's home. That's like the person that was eating the pastry, and it looked like the shape of a gun to the other kids, and the police came. They responded to the pink pastry. Here's another article. Student arrested, expelled for pocket knife found in car during a routine search at the martial law facility. Yeah, I remember cases of valedictorians and people that had their degrees stripped because on the last day of school they brought a package of Dixie knives, forks, and spoons. The one girl got caught bringing a pie to her teacher, was having an after-school party with her teachers, and the school police officer walked in and saw the Dixie butter knife that has a serrated edge. And needless to say, she went to appeals court over it and got it reversed and was able to keep her degree. I remember that. This is total mind control, folks. This is America. The banks are stealing trillions. We're wide open. The government ships in the narcotics publicly. But the valedictorian brings a pie and some coffee for her teachers. You're going to lose your degree, honey. And if you got a shotgun on your wall in Texas, the police are coming. They're coming, they're coming, they're coming, they're coming, they're coming. Principal loses job for instructing students to speak English. That's the headline on DrudgeReport.com right now. It's all part of the new freedom. Oh, Alex, where's the tyranny? It's not bad. Where's the problem? I mean, sure, they're listening to everything we do. We have the busiest prison population in the world. Our cancer rate's the highest in the world. Everything's fine.
We're on the march.
Last week, Ares Armor that makes lower receivers for AR-15s got an injunction against the ATF raiding them without warrants and taking their customer list and seizing their gun parts. Because, I mean, and I've had all the top experts on what they're doing is totally legal and lawful. But the ATF, you know, does stuff like if a semi-auto gun misfires and fires 2 rounds at a shooting range, they have the shooting range people tattle on them, and then they come and SWAT team their house and put them in jail for 5 years. And it doesn't matter if the court even admits, no, these guns can malfunction and shoot 2 bullets. Doesn't matter. You're going to jail. Because the #1 mission is wreck good people. Get good people in prison. Destroy America. Shut down the power plants. Ship the jobs overseas. Bring in poor, unskilled labor. Drive down the wages. The New World Order wants to break America, and it is. And as things get worse and worse, they tell the police, oh, you got to get even tougher on the public. You got to get even more revenue because everything's collapsing. And so they get even harder with the public and squeeze even more. All by loving New World Order design. Because they've done this in the Third World over and over again. The globalists are quite public about what they're doing. So Ares Armor is going to be joining us for 30 minutes via video Skype on the road because they're going to court. So that should be interesting. We'll see how that goes. Then the Green family legally and lawfully was producing medical marijuana, something George Washington did. He produced hemp that has no THC for ship sales and for rope. And then he also produced what they called the toothache weed because they told you to smoke it when you had a toothache or a stomachache. The apothecaries bought it, and he sold it. Those bills of lading and payments from before he was the head of the U.S. military, the founder of the Army, and then after he retired from being president. It's famous, you know, everything he did, the sales of corn and cotton and tobacco and different types of hemp. And so for what George Washington did that was totally legal, the CPS admitted that, oh, no, you're allowed to grow medical marijuana. You got the licenses and everything. We're going to take your kids, though. And I want to warn everybody that, you know, let's say you're pregnant, you're at a party, literally you smell some marijuana, that's enough to give you a positive. They're not going to tell you when you go to the hospital to have your kid or when they test your blood months before that they're going to take them with CPS once they get them there. And then when your kid's all screwed up at age 2 with sores all over them in some government facility, they're going to put them on antipsychotics and brain damage them. And then when they've sucked all the money out of your daughter or son that you never saw again, they're going to throw them out on the street when they're 18 to be one of these zombies that wanders around talking to themselves. Because they're the loving government. Now, let me continue, though, with everything they lovingly do. The Green family had their children taken, freebabybree.com, because of the fact that they were growing medical marijuana. The CPS said, get this, someone might want to rob you because you have a greenhouse of marijuana. So if I drive a nice car or I live in a nice house, will they take my children? Well, the answer is yes. That's actually who they target. But it isn't robbers coming. It's child molesting potbellies, known as CPS. On average, the highest rate of child molestation, Justice Department's own numbers. I mean, who do you think wants that job? People that like to grab your kid and throw them in a car. They don't do it in white vans anymore. Now, am I saying all of the social workers are bad? No, most of the people that help old people, most of the social workers I've run into that help college students or whatever actually turn out to be nice people. CPS has the highest turnover of any state or federal job, 50+% a year on average, because a lot of good people get into it and find out it's a dirty racket. There are quotas on kids, and we're going to be talking about that with that family coming up in the third hour. Are you next? I can't tell you how many times I've been at Barton Springs or at a restaurant or in a movie theater and heard people talk about how their neighbor or their friend or their brother or the sister or them, how they've lost their child, their newborn child, and their other children that they had in some cases because they got a positive marijuana. And it's upwards of 20, 30% can be a false positive. No judge, no jury, your kids are gone. There's no lightening up on marijuana laws, folks. They're going to send the social workers after all the potheads. And George Soros is out there promoting it because he wants you stoned out of your brain. Let me tell you, folks, pot's so strong now, it's in the psychotropic class. People that I know that smoke it are zombies. It literally impairs their function. This is not your grandparents' marijuana. This is not your George Washington's marijuana. Now, that said, I'm for total decriminalization. You can go get high off stuff that's in your chemical aisle. There's stuff, I can get a plant book right now at Barnes & Noble. In fact, I have them. And then go out into the woods of Central Texas like an apothecary. They'd call it a witch 1,000 years ago. And I could pick plants that would get me bombed out of my brain hallucinating. You want me to list them for you? Buckeyes, silver nightshade, black nightshade, mistletoe. Would you like me to continue? By the way, if you take too much of some of that, it'll make your heart explode. So folks, don't take it. You can go read the old recipes on how to cook it. And let me tell you, when you cook it in the black pot, you're going to want to run around with the witches in a circle with the broom between your legs. Because you're going to be hallucinating full out. I've read about it. Now, the point here is that you're never going to stop. Listen, I've watched Blue Jays growing up go and get ripe China berries. When they're green, they're not alcoholic. But when they turn yellow and soft, they have alcohol in them. And the birds eat them till they get so drunk, they fall over. Where is the government agency to stop the Blue Jays getting drunk? Throw them in jail right now. You know how many animals... You know, dolphins eat poisonous pufferfish to get high? The question is, are you going to arrest a dolphin? I think we should, actually. We should have, like, the DEA in scuba tanks in the water. And you know, when they catch a dolphin, and there's the headline, Docs reveals dolphins chew, pass around pufferfish to experience high. And see, they're smart. They don't eat the whole thing. It'll kill them. They just chew on it and get a little bit of cyanide. Nothing like a cyanide high, boys and girls. Oh, the world is so incredible, ladies and gentlemen. Anyways, just because I'm for decriminalizing marijuana doesn't mean I like the culture it's creating. If there's some people who can handle it at night like alcohol, it's better than alcohol on average, doesn't kill your liver, has a lot of good medical effects. It's a magic plant. It really is one of the most wondrous plants out there, probably the most wondrous. And it certainly does help people that have glaucoma, who can't eat, who are on chemotherapy. I mean, it's got hundreds of uses. My issue is that doesn't mean that I endorse it as a panacea with the whole Denver culture of being so stoned you don't know who you are anymore. And you don't work anymore. And you just, sure, there are a lot of high-strung type A personalities that, 9 o'clock at night, kids are in bed, go in their bedroom, fire up a, marijuana cigarette, take a few hits off of it, and it's in every study better than Prozac, in every study better than Adderall. In every study, they're coming out with the cannabinoids and things in pills for kids that are hyperactive, and it's having wondrous effects. But that's because it's a very low dose, folks. It's a lot better than putting kids on Adderall and Prozac, stuff that'll eat their brain. And I'm not even saying that's good. But I'm digressing. There is a lot of news to cover and get to. But while all this is going on, our culture is converting into a total tyranny. And I want to tell you a story now before I get to this article that's up on Infowars.com. It's the top story on Drudge. Principal who told kids not to speak Spanish will lose job. This is in South Texas. The Hempstead School Board won't review the contract for principal who instructed her students not to speak Spanish in a rapidly evolving district Yeah, 60+% of the kids in Texas are Hispanic, and a large percentage of them do not even speak English. Now, I'm going to explain why that's not good. Like many Texas schools are now Hispanic. Again, it goes on to say, half the students, like many Texas schools, are now Hispanic. You mean from Mexico, Mexican colonization. Hempstead Middle School principal Amy Lacey was placed on paid administrative leave in December after reportedly announcing via intercom that students were not to speak Spanish on the school's campus. The Hispanic population of the rural area, roughly 50 miles northeast of Houston, is growing quickly. And Latino advocates say that it's important to allow Spanish in public schools. Let me explain what happens. Once the conversion's made, you can't wear American flags. It's offensive. And that's all over the country. From Texas to California, they're banned as a gang symbol. You cannot have the saluting of the flag anymore. You can't have any of that. It's the Mexican flag. That's come out. You can't have the flag at the local church. You can't have the flag at the local auto parts store or at the post office. It gets pulled down. You've seen that. I've seen the immigration parades in Austin, folks. It's not Hispanic Americans. It's illegals with Mexican flags saying Mexico, 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 plan of San Diego, plan of San Diego. I mean, I don't see the Klan marching saying kill all blacks or Hispanics above the age of 16. The plan of San Diego, I mean, wearing T-shirts saying plan of San Diego. And I'm like, wow, you're saying you want to kill me? And then they'll have guys that are running it from UT. One of the guys looks just like Pancho Villa. He does the whole same mustache and everything. I run into him repeatedly. He goes, that's right, gringo, and we're going to kill you. I mean, I have video of this stuff. And it's like, we're going to kill you. Mexico, kill whites, kill whites, kill whites, kill whites, kill, 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 kill. And I'm sitting there watching this unfold, seeing this go on. I made national news, the plan of San Diego, when I showed the people leading it, saying plan of San Diego, overthrow the U.S. in Texas, kill all whites above the age of 16. Now, the point is that Hispanic Americans, just like all Americans, but are super hardworking, great patriotic people and listeners of this show. It's the issue of Mexico is a collapsed, failed kleptocracy that is literally going into the Stone Age and collapsing. And then we're supposed to, I mean, yeah, the French had Texas, and it's the Six Flags of Texas, folks. The Russians had California. I mean, do you see the Russians showing up saying you stole it? A few Spanish missions in California? A few missions in Texas? I mean, you know, there was a reason the Mexicans didn't colonize Texas, folks. It was because the Comanche would kill them. So the Mexican government called in the Tennesseans that had just wiped out in a war 100,000 Native Americans, which, by the way, they were losing the war for a long time. It didn't like all the Wild West movies where it's all in the 1880s or 1870s, where, you know, they're hunting down some Apaches in Arizona. No. I mean 100,000-man armies pouring down out of Illinois, led by freebooting white pirates, you name it, you know, quote, the half-breed, whatever his name was, you know, and you know, that's the quote in the history books, you know, 6'8", swung battle club, you know, and Sam Houston, death battle. I mean, it was just like people with arrows all sticking out of them, whole cities burned, mass slaughter. There's no movies about that. It's the most fabulous stuff you could ever imagine, ladies and gentlemen. And I mean, not in a good way. I mean, beyond Conan the Barbarian stuff, okay? And the Mexicans went, bring those people down here. Have them kill the Indians. And that's what happened. Full-on, absolute slaughter on both sides. Now, more often than not, people ended up intermarrying. That's why most people in Oklahoma or East Texas are Native American. There's almost no one, unless it's the old, rich, hoity-toity families that aren't part Native American. I got Native American all over, on every side of my dad's family. All of them. Comanche, just a whole bunch of other groups. Every time I try to remember all the different groups, one of them's the ones that got sent to Florida, and then had one of those moments. What's the one that's the main dominant group in Oklahoma? That's what I can't even tell you. Cherokee. There you go, Cherokee. The whole point is it's all over the place. So it isn't just like the history books told you. But the point is Texas does not belong to Mexico. Let's just get that straight who conquered it. People from Tennessee and Alabama and Virginia conquered it. And the death toll is in the hundreds of thousands on both sides, okay? So let's just get that straight. And by the way, the French were always, or the British would flip-flop and combine forces. So you'd have British or French armies leading armies of natives. And the natives would come to you. This isn't in the movies. And I'm not demonizing the natives. This is the history. They would come and say, if you do not join us to have war party on the such and suches, we will burn your cities. Okay, we'll help you kill them then. I mean, you know, this is why the natives could be beaten, even though they were outnumbered, the whites, and were just as warlike and vicious as the whites, who were just about the most vicious people ever seen, by the way, historically up to that point. I mean, Europeans just constantly were in war, folks. Totally warlike. So the whole point is that this was a giant swashbuckling war. And the language of the world, to talk about what's happening outside Houston, is English. The British Empire conquered the world. In international space communications, you speak English. The internet's in English. It's not Chinese, even though there's 1,300,000,000 Chinese. It's not Indian, even though there's 1,200,000,000 Indians. It's English, folks. So it is a detriment. Let me tell you, if the world language was Spanish, folks, we would be speaking it. And a lot of people speak Spanish because there was a big empire. A lot of folks speak Portuguese. It was a big empire. There are a lot of people speak Dutch. It was a big empire. But you know how they all communicate with each other? English, English, English. The race pimps want to keep Hispanics on the plantation only speaking Spanish and literally, as the Mexican government calls them, peons. And you look at the Mexican Congress, they look on average more white than our Congress. I mean, pull up the Mexican Congress. Everybody's about 6'5". And, you know, a bunch of them have got blonde hair and blue eyes, or they're about 6'5", like Vicente Fox, and look like a Spaniard. Those people never bred with the Indians, never touched them, and are just as racist as anybody ever was. In fact, I've got to say about the Mexican ruling class, they've been more elitist than the Anglos that intermarried with the Indians. So there's your fact. I am personally completely sick and tired of all of this crud. Knowing history, it's so frustrating. And the principle is right. That you need to have one language. Imagine going to Mexico and saying, hi, make your school bilingual. They would laugh at you. No one. Imagine going to Germany and saying, you're going to have this and all this. They would laugh at you. Or Austria or Switzerland. Only in England, only in the U.S. is this joke, because they want to bring in foreign populations and create them into little subdivisions that are controlled and balkanized to play them off against the domestic population. So there's the rest of the story. That's what's going on. And Hollywood doesn't want to make a movie. Do you know how many grave sites I've gone to? We've got an old family cemetery in East Texas and another one. How many of them say killed by Indians? I mean, you go in these cemeteries, and it's like a third of the gravestones are killed and scalped by Indians. Killed by Indians. You'll see a whole family lined up, killed by Indians. People go, oh, they were fighting the evil white man. No, they were killing Indians more than they were killing whites. What's happening, ladies and gentlemen, is they're getting rid of the news system and journalism in this country. They got mainstream media to discredit themselves by selling out. Then they lost their viewers. Now they're being basically shut down and turned to cooking shows on CNN and MSNBC. And race porn. And government worship porn. And now they're phasing out entirely access to press conferences with all the talking head teleprompter baubles like Obozo. And that's in the Examiner. AP photographer hits White House. Once we lose access, we'll never get it back. You already lost access to being a journalist when you started parroting whatever the liar-in-chief said. Well, Obama says you can keep your doctor. Doesn't matter, you're losing him. Reality is whatever Obama says. You guys are very nice, but please don't give me almonds during a 3-minute break. It's hard to talk once you've been eating almonds. Those are good almonds, by the way. Kind of racist, though. Seattle said ban brown bags. It's racist to say the word brown. And don't say bossy. That hurts women's fault. That makes them feel bad. I mean, I say this stuff and it sounds like crazy satire. It's real. Don't say bossy, racist, anti-woman. Don't say brown bag. So I make a joke about don't say brown almond. In the latest media charge that the White House has reneged on promises to be transparent. They reneged on promises? No. 2 of AP's White House staff told a convention in Denver this week that the president's team often bars coverage of Obama events because they are hypersensitive about his image. Hypersensitive, yeah. They only put him in pure fiction programs now. See, they don't need you anymore because folks discovered you were a fiction media. So now he's just going directly to fiction, and people that suspend disbelief and watch Jimmy Kimmel and watch ESPN. And they sit there and they watch it, and that's what they do. At the Newspaper Association of America Media Exchange Convention in Denver, AP White House photographer Charles Durapak said that instead of telling reporters and photographers at a major news event, like the president's recent meeting with the Dalai Lama, it is issuing virtual press releases on social media. Well, yeah, that's the whole point. Because journalists are supposed to ferret out, is it a lie? Or what's the rest of the story? Or what did somebody else say about it? But you wouldn't do that. You would just repeat it and become what the system calls repeaters. So why would they need you anymore now that they have the digital age? You were no longer an individual. You no longer gave commentary. You no longer made them bounce their fraud off reality. You no longer reality tested. So you destroyed yourself. And almost all of you are now losing your jobs. As Matt Drudge in 1999 or whatever it was on C-SPAN. By the way, I want to find that press conference he did at the press club and play that, because I remember when he said that and the media laughed at him. I want to find that sometime this week or next week. We'll find it now. Matt Drudge at the National Press Club, and then play that and see who's laughing now. By the way, they're still in denial that they're collapsing now when they've already collapsed. So there you go. I mean, now the media consists of low-grade morons like LeBron James and Justin Bieber running around promoting whatever Obama pushes. I mean, that's what we're reduced to, ladies and gentlemen. There's a viral video up on Infowars.com right now. Video, kid screams in agony as cop snaps his arm. Now, we've got video of pro-lifers sitting on the sidewalk, having their arms broken with nunchucks being twisted. Federal judge ruled torture, pain compliance is legal and lawful. Why don't they just legalize pedophilia? I guess they are at the UN. This is the criminal government. It's not all criminal yet. There's still a lot of good people in the system, folks, but we have to stand up and speak out in government, out of government, private life, everywhere. But video, kid screams in agony as cop snaps his arm. Some attempt to justify officer's action. We're going to play some of that audio and video right now, but you can watch the video for yourself. It's only 37 seconds long. Shocking video has emerged of a campus police officer violently breaking a student's arm as he screams out in agony during an incident at a Westbrook High School, Beaumont, Texas. Footage of the incident shows squabbles breaking out before a female officer grabs a male student and hauls him to the ground. Aided by Officer Stephen Rivers, as the female officer presses the student's face to the ground, Rivers grabs the arm and violently bends it backwards in what appears to be a deliberate attempt to snap the bone. Well, yeah, it's an attack dog deal. I mean, I did not resist George W. Bush and the state police and the Texas Rangers they had there as his security, and 2 of them. I asked the question at the end of the speech. He was supposed to give a press conference. He'd been giving the speech for months, same stupid speech. And I said, what about the Federal Reserve? It's going to bankrupt the country, the New World Order. Isn't that the issue, Governor, right before he ran for president? And he looks at them. They come over, they grab me. They push me out of the building. I don't resist. And then they crank my arm all the way back up my fist to the middle of my back, and to this day I have a little bit of tear in my rotator cuff. If I roll over at night, it's excruciatingly painful. Little gift. They taught me in America that, you do not ask a question at a press conference. And this kid is clearly not resisting, and it panics you when a woman jumps on top of you and is sitting on your head, and then they come over and they break your arm. I mean, it's a standard deal. He's lucky he didn't have 8 cops jump on him and kill him or brain damage him like the kid outside Austin comes over, pushes the girls aside, standing there. They taser him, hits his head. He's brain damaged. Can't talk now. They're going to give those cops probably medals or something. Why not Congressional Medal of Honor or something? So it's this militarized attitude of full force on somebody automatically. Oh, but you can't paddle the kids or make them run laps when they're bad, which actually works. It shouldn't even give you a bruise, but hurts. No, you can't dominate them early on to make them behave. No, then you just break their arms. You just taser them and they have a heart attack. I mean, this is insane. I'm not even going to tell stories about high school. They're too unbelievable. But things have certainly changed. And let me tell you, your kid's in a public school, they're in a prison. And they got they're going to be shot up with deadly shots. They're going to be given GMO food. They're going to be surveilled, tracked. And the good chance is they're going to end up being put in the juvie, because that's all it is a funnel into the prison system on record. That's not even debated. Let's go to the audio and video of this. So he is trying to get away right there. And so, like prey trying to get away from a predator. There goes the arm. I guess the cop doesn't know that joints don't bend that way. There goes the arm. Now, to me, it doesn't look like the cop's deliberately trying to do it. I just don't think the cop's even looking at what he's doing. He's just twisting the arm in any old direction. Definitely with the state police, they wanted to hurt me. I bet the cop that did that's had that come back on him 10 times. That's how the world works. I ought to check in on that state police guy, see how he's doing. Well, Ares Armor was producing parts for firearms and following the law. The ATF famously is anti-gun and loves to harass people that create parts and accessories for firearms. And they were able to get an injunction on them raiding them, but that didn't stop the ATF. They got another federal judge to let them in. Made national news, and the ATF announced to them that it was fun to raid them. And they came in Army uniforms, Army outfits with battle helmets, and strutted around, and they were in there with kids and families, and they didn't want the donuts they were offered because they're prepared for war with the American people. And if you get an injunction on an ATF raid, you're obviously using the legal system. Why, you must be a criminal, so let's send an armored vehicle and a bunch of guys in helmets, because they all watch Captain America and are imagining that they're Captain America, when they're really disreputable creatures that work for a criminal occupation force on record. It's on record America's run by foreign banks. It's on record the government's criminal. And it's on record that more guns means less crime, and it's on record that criminals get their guns illegally. And it's on record that you are targeting the general public for complete and total disarmament under State Department Memorandum 7277 and under the UN Treaty. And you're on notice that you're engaged in criminal operations. And you're on notice that we're awake to you. And you're on notice that the word is spreading. So buy your armored vehicles with our tax money. Buy your paper targets that have children on them for no hesitation. Train for war with us, okay? Don't worry, your pension funds will be taken too, slobs. Take your shots, ATF. Give your kid the fluoride. You wonder why your kid... I bet half the ATF listen, their kid can't even talk. That's how bad it is in this country. You're so cursed by the system. You love it. You love the fraud. CPS is now taking people's kids that legally get medical marijuana for glaucoma and stuff. You love that too. You prey on us, and you do it all through the fake legalese cover of the system. And the people perish for lack of knowledge. They join us from the road at a cafe, so there'll be some music in the background, I'm told, but that should add to the ambiance. Told it's an Italian restaurant. Maybe I can get a chicken piccata. But we are talking to the CEO of Ares Armor, Dimitri Karras, and Lindy Diaz, who helps head things up there. You can see her in the photos offering them donuts and things. And you just got the people waiting at their open business, and they're just standing there on the video. You can see it up at Infowars.com, and there's guys pointing machine guns at them, pointing and walking around with their chest out, imagining they're fighting a real enemy. I mean, come on. Why don't you go fight Al-Qaeda in Iraq? Oh, I'm sorry, they're heroes now and are staging ground to attack Syria. I mean, even though I don't agree with the Iraq and Afghan war, I know a lot of veterans and people that are friends of mine, and they're just fun people to hang out with, fun people to go surfing with, fun people to, and then they take their shirt off and they got bullet wounds and shrapnel holes all over them. People like Sergeant Biggs, Staff Sergeant Biggs, man, that guy. I went surfing with him, wake surfing with the Steiners, and he jumped on the board immediately and was like just really doing a great job. We were amazed by that. And just has like shrapnel, all over him and holes in him and bullet holes and everything. That's nothing. He's been in there like 3 tours, I think. Some of those people have had like 10 tours, have feet blown off, and they strap prosthetic toes on and go back into combat. Those kind of people you've got to admire just for their courage. I do not admire ATF coming into an open business, into a strip center with families and kids and just strutting around with people behind the counter, just total idiots. And then going through the building and pushing people around. So they join us, CEO Dimitri Karras. Thank you so much for coming on with Lindy Diaz. And tell people the whole story of what happened to you. Break it all down there in the former state of the United States, California, now absorbed into the kleptocracy of the globalist.
Absolutely. And first off, thanks so much for actually having us on today and everything like that. We cannot tell you how much we appreciate and the support that's actually been lended to us after the situation occurred. It's humbling to see how many people that are out there in the real world that actually care about this country still, and it's definitely invigorating to see that there's people who still give a shit about what's going on in this country. Pretty much what happened is, and we're talking about an agency that has the power to define anything they want to be a firearm, and in the past, this same agency has determined that a 14-inch long piece of shoestring is a firearm, right? So what they've done is...
By the way, I've had the lawyers on and the head of Gun Owners of America. That's true. I mean, they could say a chocolate Easter bunny was a nuclear bomb.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's the power that's granted to them to go ahead and determine whatever they want is to be a firearm, and then apparently to execute raids and all sorts of other ill will against the American people. Let's put example that you're a pen manufacturer and you're making pens, and the ATF decides they don't like you anymore, and they deem your pen to be a firearm. Well, I can tell you exactly what's going to happen after that. They're going to come to you with some sort of under-the-table shady deal and tell you to give them all of your pens and tell you to give them all of the private customers' information who bought that pen from you. To think that we live in a country where this is actually happening it's ludicrous.
Well, it gets worse than that. Now, people with tattoos of guns aren't able to fly. People with shirts that say NRA are kicked out of school. And now a man had a tattoo of a gun, and so they SWAT team raided him because the tree trimming people, because most of these service people get money on the side, ratting folks out. They should be civilly sued over it. That's a big secret. The plumber, the whatever, is actually spying on you. They saw the tattoo of the gun and raided him as if a handgun's even illegal in Maryland. I mean, this is the culture we live in. It's totally sick.
You probably just hit it on the head there, Alex. I'm guessing that's probably why they raided us right there. Got a 3% on my neck.
Very evil.
Now, with that said, what happened is they came to us after they raided EP Armory. We became aware of that. We realized what their determination on EP Armory's product had been. after we got a chance to look at that determination, it became apparently obvious to us that the ATF had made a giant mistake. Their determination, the only determination that anybody other than the ATF has seen so far, is based on fiction. The process that they described in their determination and the way that they described it, saying that which made this product into a firearm, is 100% false. They know it's false. They were informed it's false, but they didn't really care too much about that. What they cared about was attempting to make threats against us in order to gain access to private information and to make our life somewhat difficult. So we start getting calls and harassment from them Monday of last week, and they're saying, listen, you give us this stuff or we're going to come in, we're going to raid every single one of your buildings, we're pretty much going to make your life miserable, but if you make this deal with us under the table, underhanded, nobody's going to know about it. Don't worry, we know that your customers, they'll be really mad at you if you give this to us, so don't worry, we won't let anybody know that you worked with us. It's going to be fine, it's going to be okay, everything's good. We know you're a legitimate business, we don't want to...
This is illegally give us stuff that they're not supposed to get without warrants. This is NSA-style stuff, but worse, or we're going to set you up. This is gangster, mafia, thug America.
Yeah, and so what we did is we went out and, like any legitimate business would do when they're being threatened by the mafia, we went to the judicial system and asked for help. We asked to get a temporary restraining order, which we got based on the merits of what we presented in front of the judge. Now, what they did is on Friday, they went in and they pretty much said, hey, this is a criminal proceeding, this, that, and the other. You can't stop it. And they got the judge to clarify that the restraining order did not prohibit lawful criminal proceedings, at which point in time they went to a different judge, got themselves a search warrant, and they made good on their threats. They came by on Saturday. They went through every building that we had. They grabbed our computer systems. They grabbed our products. They grabbed paperwork and information. I mean, some of the stuff they grabbed is kind of silly to some degree.
But I like how they were dressed up to play Army, though.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And, one of the guys that was there... I said hi to him, and I shook his hand, and he comes up to me, and he's, he told me his name, and I said, oh, I'm Dimitri, and he said, oh, I know who you are. We got a brief on you this morning. And I'm like, well, what's that supposed to mean? He's like, oh, well, we heard all about your, military record and this other kind of things, just in case things went south. And I laughed, and I told the guy, I wear a tie for a living. I'm a law-abiding citizen. There's no reason to come into this place dressed like you're going through Ramadi.
But you're the enemy because you're a veteran. You're listed as the #1 enemy publicly by the traitor government. We have a Vichy collaborator, banker, occupied government on record. They're the enemy. They declare veterans the #1 enemy. You have been declared the enemy.
Well, and I can tell you this, Alex, one compliment I did get from one of the agents during the raids is that he was actually afraid to talk to me because of how much I talk to the media and how open I am about the situation, which is one of those things. They absolutely should be afraid to talk to us. In a situation like this, it's 100% them that should fear us.
Well, they're going to go to Nuremberg. When we take this country back, people that have abused the American people are going to be standing tall before the man.
Absolutely. And it's also one of those things when I'm discussing this with these people and I'm like, that your information is false. You know that you're doing this based on information that is 100% incorrect, but yet you continue to do this. And the answer that I get back is, well, that's the information that's been passed down from higher. So it's almost like talking to, an Auschwitz prison guard who's at, why are you holding them inside of these cells over here? Why are you doing this? Oh, well, that's the information that was passed down to me from higher. You know what I mean? It's absolutely ludicrous, the behavior.
Well, let's break down and talk about how what they're claiming is a full firearm. Because, I've seen the cases where they'll claim a barrel is a firearm. They'll claim a flash suppressor. I saw that case a while back where they said a shoestring was.
A shoestring, absolutely. They can declaim, and that's the power that apparently we've given them. These people have literally declaimed a shoestring to be a firearm in the past.
Well, here's an example. The federal courts have said they can define a firearm. So they can define a cumulus cloud as one. That's the same thing with the EPA. The Supreme Court said they can define what a pollutant is. Well, they're now saying water vapor and carbon dioxide is. So they can tax it. Stay there, guys. I want to come back with the CEO of Ares Armor, aresarmor.com, and talk about the evil products they had and where this is going. Will the ATF be able to put them out of business? And, of course, they're going to come for you next. By the way, the ATF's now visiting folks that buy more than 500 rounds of ammo. There's a purge of gun owners.
Shed his lifeblood on my blade.
I take it personal being conquered by the private Federal Reserve, Bank of England.
In the spring of 25.
But I am still alive.
But I am still alive.
It's up on drudgereport.com, an Infowars.com article. 10 ways true feminism is under attack. And this is an article I'll be covering after our guests leave us at about 45 after. But I want to go back to these folks because I've had a lot of gun dealers contact me over the years and give us documents and give us intel. We broke that the ATF was making people file reports on folks buying more than 2 firearms outside of law years ago. But the gun shops never want to be on air. They're scared. And these guys are not. And the attitude that's going to win is realizing we've done nothing wrong and laughing at the system. And yeah, they may come after us. They may set us up. They may kill us. I mean, I know the globalists are murdering killers. They might kill me next week. Hope they don't. They might shut me up and put me in prison. They might drug me. I mean, you know, who knows? The whole point is that that's just the way it is then, Jack, because I'm not going to get down and lick your boots. You got it? Now, going back to the CEO, and of course, I want to get Ms. Diaz's take, who also works there at the company, who's with him. Dimitri Karras, a veteran. So they were very upset over the fact that you were a veteran. Break down why they were there, what they were claiming they were looking for. What did they want a few weeks ago under the table?
What they wanted was they wanted our customer list, and it was a specific product that was made in polymer that's an 80% receiver. Now, in every determination that the ATF has ever made in the past, there are 5 things that are required for in the AR style of 80% receivers to be left undone that the customer would have to complete in order for it to not be considered a firearm. Those things are your fire control pocket, your hammer pin, your trigger pin, your safety selector through hole, and your trigger through hole. All of those 5 operations are left uncompleted on the product in question. Again, their issue with it was about the manufacturing process and how the manufacturing process happened, and they were wrong. They're completely wrong. They know that they're wrong. They've been informed that they're wrong, but that didn't really seem to matter to them. And what's funny about this is I go to the courts and I say, hey, I'm being extorted because someone is trying to come in unjustly and take, you know, this information and take this stuff from us. And this isn't a contested issue. We want to handle this in the courts. We don't want to handle this through, you know, the conventional means that the ATF likes to use of just, you know, bashing in people's doors. We're honestly lucky that the FBI's hostage roasting team didn't show up for this event, but apparently that is not the way they wanted it to happen. I mean, we had asked the judge to declare whether these things are firearm. We wanted to go into court with evidence, with proof, with, you know, everything that was going on and handle this that way. But that's not the, you know, that's not the way that the federal government does things, apparently. And I can tell you this. When we had actually contacted you, it was Lindy here that's with me today. She's my assistant. She mostly does everything, and I usually take the credit for it, but she's the real power behind the scenes. But she was the one who actually contacted you guys. It was right after the judge had clarified that order, and we were fully expecting the ATF to come in at that moment. And it was, we'd sent all the employees home, and it was me and her sitting there waiting for them to show up. And the conversations that we had was literally, well, how do you think they're going to come in here? Do you think we're both going to live through this raid? You know, and it's because you watch, these are the same people that pulled off Waco. These are the same people that are you know, have been giving guns to the cartels for years. These are the
Ruby
same
Ridge. No, let me tell you.
I mean,
let me tell you, the ATF was the masterminds of Oklahoma City and even tested blowing up another Ryder truck. And we even know the ATF people that were there on the ground confirmed off hotel receipts. So let me tell you, they are the most evil force in America.
Well, and they've been like, and here's the other thing. We've had reports from our customers where our customers will leave the store. They'll get pulled over right across the street, questioned about what their business is with us. And then when they ask the officers question them, they'll, you know, the officers will just like run off, be like, here's your ID card back. All right, go about your business.
Yeah, they're putting them in a suspicious persons report because the new terrorists are gun owners. They've publicly announced it, and they've got the police collaborating with them as well.
Yeah, well, this is also one of those situations. I mean, this is a clear-cut situation of an overreaching government wanting to get people's private information. And I get asked, why did they want that information? Is it about the guns? Is it about the guns? Why did the NSA? Why are they recording all of our phone conversations and keeping databases of our text messages? It has nothing to do with this. This isn't just the Second Amendment. This is a huge, huge, huge overreaching government that's coming into your life. They want to know what you're doing in your living room. They want to know what you're doing in your kitchen. They'd love to know what you're having for dinner tonight, and it's none of their business. None of their business.
Well, I hear you, and I'm just over here on my computer watching the video of the raid. We're going to come back and talk to Ms. Diaz. Lindy, straight ahead, get her take on this. Stay with us. Our problem is we're not radical enough. We haven't turned up our rhetoric to meet the enemy threat. I've studied history. It's incredibly compelling, incredibly engrossing. It's amazing how action-packed it is compared to Hollywood, to fiction. Most governments end up taking over, enslaving everyone and mass murdering, and taking the general public's daughters and making them become prostitutes for the state. Germany now officially does that. Oh, you don't get welfare. You got to go out and hook. And my point is that it's about control. The state wants to decide who can be in commercials, who can publish books, who can be successful, what the styles are going to be. It is control freaks, the opposite of those that love individualism. Again, I don't like marijuana. I think it's a bad culture, a bunch of stoners ruining their lives. But you know what? You got a right to do it. I'm for total decriminalization. And guns, yeah, there's some bad people with guns, but statistically, it's 70-plus times. I was saying 40-something. That was an old number. That guns are used to stop crime for when they're used in crime. Crime's down by 51% using firearms. Those are Justice Department numbers, but boy, they sure just don't want to promote them, do they? They want to brainwash the public that gun crime is at an all-time record. As Eric Holder said, and as the LA Times even admitted, gun crime plunges as public perceives epidemic. Maybe the public that believes mainstream media. But I've never heard anybody with a firearm. I've never shot anybody with a firearm. And I've grown up since age 4 firing firearms. That's how you start out. You start out sitting in Grandpa's lap with a .410, and you shoot a coffee can to show you how dangerous it is. And then you're told, you don't touch this, it's dangerous. Every household in this country back 60, 70, 80 years ago, even just 20 years ago in many areas, the guns weren't locked up, folks, because people knew you don't touch them. Until the kid's about 3 or 4, maybe you got them in a glass case and lock it. But you don't touch those guns. By the time you're 6 years old, you can shoot dove out of the air, shoot quail in the brush. But my dad was a kid. They were shooting deer by the time they were 6. I didn't shoot a deer till I was 9. Trying to reverse that trend. My son's now alligators, deer, you name it. That's normal. I mean, they arrest development, ladies and gentlemen. People were men by the time they were 14, 15 before. Now you're not a man until you're 25, they say. This is the takeover to make you domesticated. It's the war on men that ties into the war on women that is taking place and going on. Now, I want to give you guys the floor and shut up. CEO Dimitri Karras and Lindy Diaz, his assistant, there at Aries Armor. Describe what you guys sell, what you were doing. Looks like a nice place you had. Describe how long you've been in business, what happened, where this is going. And I'd like to hear from Lindy about what it was like. I saw photos of you guys offering them donuts. I mean, they first come in with their guns up, pointed right at you aggressively in commando outfits. I mean, obviously, they could look at you through binoculars or look in the parking lot and see you're not lying in wait for them. I mean, these are people that absolutely are cowards. But I guess most scum are cowards. Go ahead.
Absolutely, and I do want to get to let Lindy get her perspective in on this, because she was sitting there with me waiting for this to happen, and the conversations that we had and the feelings that we had were I think definitely something that should get out there. But I'll give a real quick synopsis of the company. We've been in business about 4 years. We actually started out doing tactical nylon products, which is your chest rigs, backpacks, slings, things of that nature that are mostly marketed towards the military and law enforcement, amusingly enough. And, through that, we've expanded into other product lines. We do a lot through the rifle parts now, and the 80% line is kind of where we've made our mark over the last recent years.
And you sell your firearms to general slaves?
We do not distinguish. There's not one product that we will sell to the government that we will not sell to the American people.
Yeah, okay, so you do sell stuff to the enemy. Well, that's why they're mad at you. Please continue.
Absolutely. This is one of those things, these 80% products, it's a way for the average American to get into gun ownership without the government intruding into their daily lives. The entire idea behind this is you can sit at home and you can, go out to your garage and you can build yourself a rifle, and this is legally allowed for you to do this, and it's a way for you to.
And they have said they want to register to confiscate Feinstein, all of them, Bloomberg, more. That's their plan. So people should get around their criminal designs and build their own firearms.
Well, I'm sure that Senator Feinstein loves us, especially after we registered the domain name, senatorfeinstein.com. I'm sure she's a huge fan of our work. But I would really like to actually get Lindy's take on, what was happening. When we got the notice that the judge had changed the TRO, it was pretty much, they're probably coming in right now. And so on Friday, we sent all the employees home, and it was just me and Lindy waiting down there for them to come in. And so I think it'd be really nice to hear from her exactly like what that experience.
Yeah, tell us what it was like to face the paramilitary forces of the gun confiscation squads.
Oh, I was ready. I have to say I'm one of the 3% that will stand up. So actually, I think we were ready to get shot. We were thinking about, we both have children, and we were kind of thinking of what we would want our children to think of us if this had happened, and them to follow on in our footsteps for keep fighting for what we believe in. So, as we sat there, we kept going on, we're doing this for the people who won't stand up. We are the people who will stand up. And that's kind of what it was. We were showing we aren't giving in. We're not going in unless it's in cuffs or in a bag. That's pretty much what it is.
Well, there's the headline. California gun confiscation bill passes approval, $24 million to expedite illegal gun seizure. And that's whatever guns they want, including people with tattoos of guns, are now being SWAT teamed. Just the image of a gun is a SWAT teamable offense.
That's sad to think that that's what we're coming to. Anybody can have a tattoo of anything. And what, if I have a tattoo of random stuff, it shouldn't be by what the perception of me shouldn't be, oh, she's a gun owner because she has tattoos. He's a gun owner because he dresses down. A lot of our customers are well-dressed people. You would never know they go out on the ranges on weekends to go shooting for fun. It's not like we're stockpiling guns.
Sure. Well, listen, guys, I want to have you back up on the nightly news sometime when you're in a place that doesn't have so much background noise. But briefly, any other points you want to make about the raid and where you're going from here? Are they going to be able to shut you down? When do you get your stolen stuff back from the pirates?
With that said, I can't comment on our legal strategy going forward. We have retained a very prominent law firm, and we are very confident in our abilities to overcome. With that being said, the raid that was executed against us was completely, there was no reason for it. I had actually shown ATF agents exactly where the product was that was in question. We had separated it, put it into a separate room. I had a camera pointing towards that room. I offered to give them access to that camera system so that they would be comfortable in knowing that we were not going to divest ourselves of the product. I also switched the locks out on that door. There was only 2 keys in existence, and I offered to hand the ATF agents those 2 keys so that they would be 100% assured that we did want this handled through the courts. And this is just, it's one of those situations where it's them going around the procedure. It's not them going around the procedures. It's them using the procedures and playing the game in order to keep something that is obviously wrong out of the judicial system where it already was. There was no reason for any of this to happen. And for them to say to us that, and one of the agents actually did say this to me, one of the biggest reasons that we got raided across the board on all of our facilities instead of just where the product that they were looking for was, which they knew where it was because of how mouthy we are and how much we're on, we kind of embarrass them.
That'll be very useful in court to show that they said it was for your First Amendment. So a major civil rights violation by this anti-American organization that needs to be abolished.
And I can tell you this, getting told that we embarrassed them and that's the reason that they did this, that did nothing but only embolden us to go further and actually spread the word about this even more. They should be embarrassed for what they did. What they did is wrong. They know what they did is wrong, and they should absolutely be embarrassed for it. And that's why their entire organization is a joke, and we're making a joke out of their organization. If you check on our Facebook page and other things like that, we have made a complete mockery out of what they have done. I don't think they've ever raided anybody before and had the target of their raid laugh in their face. So I think, and that's something that needs to happen. These people need to learn that they're a freaking joke. They are a joke 100%, and that's what they need to be made into.
No, that's right. We need to stop being afraid. It's like, you better not talk bad about the corrupt agencies, why they'll come get you. Well, I mean, they're criminals. I've got my free speech. They shipped tens of thousands of guns into Mexico. CBS News got the memos to blame the Second Amendment. Well, we knew that was obvious. The Attorney General did the criminal operation.
I've got one for you, Alex. So they actually contacted us not too long ago and said that they were upset about the pictures we released from our surveillance system because of the officers' privacy. Well, I'd like to ask them this. You didn't care too much about the privacy of all of our customers, so why should we take those pictures down? Why should we? Plus, you can't even see the it's not like we put out their names or their addresses like what you stole from us. No, it's just a picture of them clearly coming through our building wearing a helmet like they're going through Ramadi, treating with women and children inside of the building, treating it like it's a combat zone. You're in the United States. You have no...
Look at that woman.
In a public place,
I got to say, look at that one woman there, like strutting around. I mean, if a guy was standing in that stance, it would be a joke. You know, with her arms all out like she's Conan the Barbarian meets Audie Murphy. I mean, it's so ridiculous.
Absolutely. It was a little bit out there. And it's
well, tell us about your military service, because you said you were in Iraq. What is it like for you, a veteran, to then see them militarized against gun owners?
Well, I can tell you this. When I got back from Iraq, and I fought in Ramadi during the surge, when I got back from Iraq, one of the first things I noticed was the media was saying how the entire thing was a lost cause and this, that, and the other. But I started to look around this country, and I came to the immediate realization that the people in Iraq have more freedoms and civil liberties than we do here. And it's ludicrous to think that that's the case, but that is the case. I mean, we're talking, like I said, these people that came in and raided us are the same people who, you know, have roasted their hostages alive. They've gone through and declared 14-inch long pieces of string to be firearms. I mean, there's no common sense that has anything to do with that entire organization.
No, it's a criminal agenda to illegally destroy the Second Amendment, and we will defeat them.
Absolutely, and there's not an option about whether or not we can fight them or not. It's
unbelievable. I run into the ATF before at gun shows and stuff, and they will literally come over. This was back before I guess cell phones were ubiquitous. Like, this last one was about 8 years ago, and get in my face and go, "You're Alex Jones. We don't like how you talk about us." And I'm like, well, I mean, the ATF's got a bad history. It's BATF. Until I go, hey, man, watch it. Don't talk to me like that, you punk. I mean, I am just sick of their attitude. All right, we lost their Skype. Well, that was a good interview with those folks. Even though it sounded like helicopters were landing in the background. So there is that story, and we appreciate them standing up and speaking out for all of us. I mean, folks, this country is absolutely being overrun with tyranny right now. And it's time to see it for what it is and reject it. It's that simple. Briefly, if you like this radio show and what we do here and how aggressive we are, please thank the local AM and FM affiliates that carry the show and become a sponsor or support the local sponsors you hear and let them know why you're supporting them. And spread the word about those local AM and FM stations. That's A. B, spread the word about Infowars.com. Prisonplanet.com, Prisonplanet.tv. Become a member of Prisonplanet.tv for $5.95 a month, 11 memberships for the price of one. You can share your username and passcode with 11 people who can simultaneously use it, see all the films, the nightly news, so much more. It's Prisonplanet.tv, and the crew just does a fabulous job with John Bound really heading up, keeping Prisonplanet.tv just really up to speed. The site itself, so much better than what it used to be. It's really a site I'm proud of now. It's got the job done over the years for the films and stuff, but it's really a first-class site now. We appreciate all of your memberships and the great IT crew that keeps it going, and the reporters and everybody. The nightly news, 7 o'clock every night for subscribers. Prisonplanet.tv. It's on Boxy. It's on Roku. Tell your friends and family it's on Boxy and Roku. Tell your grandkids, you know, get a membership and say, hey, here's the username passcode. It's on Boxy. It's on Roku. You can watch it on your modern devil television, surveillance television, your smart television, your New World Order control grid television. The point is that it's a weapon system, and it's there. So go to prisonplanet.tv. That's prisonplanet.tv today and become a member. And then lastly, we are going to have, in fact, will you bring Josh and them over here? It's ready, right? Is it up on the YouTube yet? Because I'm just trying to coordinate a video that we produced over the last a few weeks that I'm really, really proud of. And I want to make it public then, because I'm looking at it here on YouTube and I don't see it there. So I'll just direct all this from on air. I want to send it out on Facebook. No, they never. I want it launched as soon as it's up. We don't put videos on private. That kills their distribution. I want it launched. I want it on Infowars.com. I want it on Prisonplanet.com. I want it on Twitter. I want it on Facebook. Any big video we put out, we do a push on. I don't know what universe it is that with big videos we put them on private and shut them down and hack them in the head with hatchets. Anyways, the point is, I'm just excited about this video. It's 2 weeks in production, and hell, let's just not release it. The point is that I wanted to release it this morning. It's been done since yesterday, and it's really funny, and it's satire, but it does not translate on radio. So we will put it on Infowars.com and Prisonplanet.com, and at the top of our Facebook, and I'm going to tweet it out at Real Alex Jones, and we're going to make it public on Infowars.com. And we're going to let people see it. I'm just had meetings this morning about that, and I'm happy, very happy. And we're creating standardized systems around here. The point is, that's going to be up on Infowars.com the next 10 minutes. It's really funny, and I'll tell you about it once it's up. But I intended to talk about it right there, but it's not up. So the issue here is that we're going to get more into satire, more into humor, more into hijacking entertainment, more into that type of coverage, okay? So that's the bottom line. So that's coming up later in the next hour as well. We'll be able to talk about that and tell you about the video that's going to be on Infowars.com, Prisonplanet.com, at the top of our Facebook, on my Twitter, and we're going to send it out today on the mass email to everybody that signed up for the free newsletter. We send out the free digital magazine. You can go to Infowars.com/newsletter to sign up there if you want it sent to your email box. So that's how it's going to be sent out. And I will continue like an emergency beacon to repeat that until it's done. All right, we'll be right back. Stay with us. Big news straight ahead.
It's time to kick.
I was doing a great job when I started ranting and raving about how I want something promoted. It's just that I want to, sometimes like really big stuff I like that we produce doesn't get promoted, and then some little thing that I don't quite think is that important ends up getting millions of views on YouTube. It's very annoying. But we did a comedy piece called Caveman Discovered in Texas. And it's also a way to fund Infowars.com because it's an ad for Super Male Vitality. But it's really ridiculous, and it just went live on Infowars.com. So be sure to go to the site, and we'll put it up on screen for folks, and click on that and send it to your friends and family because it is extremely, extremely ridiculous. Now, continuing here today, ladies and gentlemen, if you go to Infowars.com, in fact, I can put it up on my screen, and we can punch my screen up. If you go there, you can then see the story, Caveman Discovered in Texas, a satirical dramatization of how we've been dehumanized, and I think it's absolutely hilarious. And I directed it, and I came up with the concepts, but Darren McBreen came up with the end. So it stands on its merits if you think it's funny or not. It's all my fault if it isn't funny. But Darren has, I think, came up with the funniest part at the end. And I'm just going to leave it at that. What happened to Alex Jones when he took Super Male Vitality? And I will assure you, this is as funny, in my view, as any national television commercial I've seen. This is as funny as Arnold Schwarzenegger playing ping pong in a Miller Lite commercial. In fact, it's a lot funnier than that. And I think the trendies are going to like it. And it's the type of thing that's, again, a gateway to wake those type of folks up. So great job with the whole crew and everybody that participated in producing it. Because McBreen wants to do more of this stuff that you see out there, these viral videos where guys are having like laser beam fights or whatever, or things are being blown up. You can do it so easily now. Stuff is like on Sci-Fi Channel. We can do it better just with time and energy. So we're going to start really producing all sorts of really interesting stuff. That's been my plan for a long time. And this is just a little foray into that and the great graphics of the whole crew. But Darren McBreen did the really interesting one where, well, I'm not going to tell you what I did. It's up on Infowars.com. And you can comment on Infowars.com in the comments under it and tell me, did you think that it was funny? It's a little bit racy, too. Not too racy, but just a little bit. It's Gilligan's Island racy. I don't even think it would make the Amish blush. But it is racy for Gilligan's. I mean, it's Gilligan's Island level. We'll just leave it at that for you. But I'm sure our detractors will claim that we're producing pornography now, which is great. In fact, please, detractors, stop attacking us. Oh my gosh, it's horrible. We're falling apart. You're beating us. It's terrible. InfoWars is just doing terribly. Oh my gosh. We can actually see in the aggregate online where the attacks over the years help us find new viewers and listeners. So whether it's trolls or COINTELPRO, FBI folks, or whether it's MSNBC or the Media Matters, thank you. Please continue with your dwindling audiences to send them over to Infowars.com. We really want to thank you. Coming up, the latest on the missing Malaysian airline. Court says FBI secret GPS tracking memos can stay secret. And a lot more, and then special guest. All right, we're going to come back in the next segment. I'm going to play this satire piece right now. It's not as funny audio-wise. It's very funny video-wise, is my take on it. And then we're going to come back in the next segment and get into a whole bunch of breaking news that's on Infowars.com, including a story that's really big that just broke. And this is what's going to save our country, turning the rhetoric up to the level of reality. Yeah, it's radical to say we're going into a dictatorship, but it is happening. So you can't dial back just because the enemy's dialed up. You have to dial up to what they've done, the level of intensity, and their lying and criminal activities. Rand Paul, concerned about who is truly in charge of our government, warns of dystopian nightmares coming true. And, of course, we know the senator is a friend and a listener, and I'm just glad he's up there. I know he's for real. I hope Ted Cruz is. I know I like him. I just still don't completely trust him as the CFR stuff with his wife, but whatever. Judge a tree by its fruits. He's been doing a great job. So I know Rand Paul's a real deal, though, guys, and has really come a long way in his father's footsteps, and to be thrown right into the U.S. Senate for being an optometrist in Bowling Green, Kentucky. So let's go ahead and go to caveman discovered in Texas, and here it is, folks. This is real, people. Obamacare is free as well.
My friends, we have done it. With Dr. Group's help, we have developed the ultimate male vitality supplement with 8 concentrated super herbs. This is the answer to the globalist war on male vitality with the estrogen mimickers they've added to the food and the water supply. And now our test pilot, our Chuck Yeager, Dr. Edward Group, is here to test his greatest invention. Doctor?
Thank you, Alex. I will now take 2 droppers to test this ultimate male vitality formula.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a momentous moment. Thank you, Dr. Group.
I will activate my muscles by doing push-ups.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is it. This is the move. This is unprecedented. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to see what happens right now. Oh, my God! What the hell? Wait. Get out of here. Shut this down. This is not safe. This is not... Hold on. Settle down. Get another doctor. Something's wrong. Something's wrong with him. Help him. Ladies and gentlemen, we did not intend for that to happen. I take it personally. Do not have those problems. Again, these are authorized herbs, well known to be safe. Please, doctor, wait a minute. Ladies and gentlemen, we're just going to cut to commercial for just a moment. Cut. Get everybody out of here.
It's real, folks. Super male vitality. It's awesome. Just not this awesome.
Oh, my God! What the hell? Ladies and gentlemen, the dramatization you've just seen is just that. It is satire to illustrate in a satirical way the incredible power of super male vitality. It will not turn you into Conan the Barbarian, but it will help block some of the estrogen mimickers and reportedly let your glands produce the natural hormones your body needs. It also does have some other side effects in the human testing that we discovered, ladies and gentlemen. I'm about to illustrate right now what that is. Let's see if I can do it again. It takes some focus. Up, up, and away!
Start your journey to super male vitality today at InfoWarsLife.com. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. And it really is great, and it helps fund our operation. We appreciate you all getting it. But we're going to start doing more satire videos that aren't just ads. I just had that idea to have Dr. Group turn into a barbarian, a.k.a. my buddy Shane Steiner, and then to make the joke that obviously it's satire. People will say that it's false advertising. It's obviously real. We just can't admit it, actually turn him into a caveman. And then obviously I did actually fly through the roof. It's amazing. I am now Superman. I just beat Zod yesterday in a space battle. And Obama is a good guy and never lies either. And if you have a business, you didn't build that, and raising the debt ceiling does not raise the debt. I think I'm becoming Obama. Ladies and gentlemen, coming up in a few minutes, Steve and Maria Green are going to be joining us, freebabybree.com. Their stories made national attention. Medical marijuana users fight to keep their infant daughter. They admit the marijuana is legal and lawful, but came and snatched their baby. Now, about half the population smokes marijuana on a regular basis. More than 80% of the population in national polls and Gallup say they have smoked it. This is so evil. Turns out a lot of CPS workers that have taken kids and ended up having them die in their custody, this happened up in Round Rock last year, are themselves convicted drug dealers of narcotics. This is how they operate. They want your kids. This is a criminal government. We're going to be breaking that down with them coming up as we get them on Skype right now. Now, getting into some other news first, this just broke up on Infowars.com and Prisonplanet.com. We just tweeted it at Real Alex Jones. Rand Paul concerned about who is truly in charge of our government. Now, folks, I've talked a lot about this, and we've got a video of that coming up after our guest leave us. The issue here is the rhetoric of the establishment is we're taking your kids belong to us, we're building FEMA camps for your own good, gun owners are terrorists, veterans are the enemy. That is insane, tyrant, bad guy rhetoric that we should use against them to discredit them. But if we just sit here and go, okay, you're the authority, it sets the precedent for that crazy level of evil. And so that's what I'm getting at here, is that when you're faced with over-the-top evil, it's not sensational to call it over-the-top evil. It's not sensational to say the Soviet Union was a nightmare system of total dehumanization and mass murder and evil. It's not sensational to say Adolf Hitler was a demon-possessed, kleptocratic mass murderer. It's not, Jack the Ripper was horrible. I mean, it's just you have to call it Jeffrey Dahmer was horrible. You don't say, oh, well, don't be reasonable. He was a human too. You've got to discriminate against bad people on their actions. And Ted Cruz and Rand Paul have been calling him drunk with power, dangerous, frightening, becoming a dictator. If we don't get Obama to ratchet it back, it will set the precedent coming into the next phase of things to where the Republicans will have this power too. And then suddenly the left will put on a big act like they're against it. We need to see real moves to rein this in. And Rand Paul and Ted Cruz in the Senate, and people like Walter Jones in the House have been moving to do that. Now, continuing here, Rand Paul, concerned about who is truly in charge of our country, close quote, warns of, quote, dystopian nightmares. Well, if a tree fell in the forest and didn't make nobody heard it, didn't make a sound, it's already going on. Look at the numbers. Look at what the government's doing. Look how it preys on us. They're taking people's children that have a legal legal medical marijuana card. I mean, this government is predatory and sick. While it ships the hard drugs in and pushes Ritalin and Prozac and everything, Prozac-type drugs on the kids. They're drug-pushing, hardcore, deadly drugs that literally retard the growth of the brain, physically create heart expansion, Adderall, all of it. And then they say, oh, but if you smoke marijuana, we're going to take your kids. Even if it's legal, CPS doesn't care. They're criminal because they have their own family court. So this is the type of garbage that's going on. Rand Paul, concerned about who is truly in charge of our country, our government, warns of dystopian nightmares coming true. Libertarian Kentucky Senator Rand Paul warned in a speech today that he believes U.S. spooks and shadow government agencies are drunk with power. Well, there's no thinking about that. And that elected representatives are privately afraid of those operating behind the curtain. Well, look at how the NSA is spying on them. Yeah, he's saying they're coming after us. People are scared. I'm not scared. Stand with me. He's saying what everybody wants. We got an evil shadow government that's hijacked stuff. The government's afraid. This is a giant breakthrough. Rand Paul tells it like it is, that Congress is being blackmailed and bullied. That's what's happening to the Supreme Court. That's why the evil can't stop. People are scared. The answer is 1776 info. You better be more scared of letting the globalists have their way. That's what I'm scared of. You got to stand up to these terrorists. They run the Al-Qaeda terrorists. They run the guns. They run the drugs on record. Criminal corporate interests that have hijacked the country and they want to shut down the markets and shut down their competition. That's what we're dealing with as a society. Rand Paul concerned about who is truly in charge of our government. Libertarian Kentucky Senator Rand Paul warns in a speech today that he believes U.S. spooks and shadow government agencies are, quote, drunk with power, and that elected representatives are privately afraid of those operating behind the curtain. Rand Paul has pulled back the curtain. This is what I've been telling you, and everybody knows this, but no one's got the chutzpah, the cojones, the bravado, the will, the honor, the courage, the destiny, the common sense, the survival instinct. I mean, when you got total tyranny coming down on you, folks, you don't roll over to it. If you're getting chased through the woods by a bunch of wolves, you don't roll over and start crying to mommy like a dying rabbit. You get a weapon. You face them off. You make them decide that you're too dangerous to mess with and move on. You climb a tree. You go in a cave if you don't have a weapon. You don't roll over and say, Mr. Wolfie Wolf, I'm going to kiss you on the lips and talk to you like you're my domesticated French bulldog, and we're going to be friends now. Is that okay? Be nice to me, federal government. Be nice, ATF. Be nice, Federal Reserve. As they put payroll taxes on poor people under Obamacare and cut their hours, meant to bankrupt you and hurt your family, they want to kill you if they could. They want to put you in a FEMA camp. They want to reduce your numbers. Stop being naive. We got cancer, folks. Just admit all the radical stuff I said was true, because it was already there. I was just aggressive enough to say it. And I'll be honest with you, folks, it's because I'm scared deep down. Consciously, I'm not scared, but at a subconscious level, I'm scared. And when I get scared, folks, I get aggressive and mean. It's fight or flight. Because I see where this goes historically and in my gut. And, man, I am running around like a chicken with my head cut off. They're putting poison in the water on record, and they write books like Ecoscience saying they're doing it to hurt us. And I can't get it out of the water. There's no debating this information. It's prima facie. It's on the face. Our guests are with us till about 45 after, and then I'll get to the airline stuff. There's some good news in Russia, ladies and gentlemen. There's some good news in Russia. Ukraine making plans to pull troops out of Crimea on the Russian deadline, so that's a major de-escalation. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian president gives Crimea leaders 3 hours to release a Navy chief, or basically threatens action, so I hope nothing happens there. They've had snipers shooting people to blame Russia. It's clear who's running it because the PR operations. Expert believes missing Malaysian Airlines flight being held for ransom. Yeah, governments probably know what happened and aren't telling people. They may have even done it and are doing it as a diversion or some rogue group. I don't know. Here's a headline. Has there been a military cover-up of the missing jet? Thai Air Force says its radar spotted MH370 heading to Strait of Malacca minutes after it vanished. I didn't say anything. Yeah, look, there's a bunch of stuff going on here. Now, I want to go to our guest, and we're going to skip this network break because I'm going to them late. Here's the headline. Medical marijuana users fight to keep infant daughter. A strong message was sent to the Department of Human Services just 4 days after Steve and Maria Green of Lansing helplessly watched as their infant daughter, Bree, was taken from their care. The reason given, state-sanctioned medical marijuana users' home was too dangerous for a 6-month-old because of plants inside. Because they were allowed to legally grow it for medicinal usage, they thought someone might rob them. Ladies and gentlemen, are you going to get robbed for jewelry? You're going to get robbed for having a watch? How about a Lexus? Again, this is how they just make up. Oh, you had plates in the dishes. Oh, you have dogs. Those are there. Oh, you don't have enough money. Oh, we want your kid. Again, most Americans have smoked marijuana. Half the population of the country is estimated to smoke marijuana on a routine basis. Now, are you too stoned out there to care? Or are you going to get organized? Because this is going on all over the country. And again, if you got glaucoma or stomach aches or all other problems, it is a great medicine if used moderately. I don't use it. But I know medically it is very useful. So I'm not judging moderate users of pot. I'm also not endorsing the culture of the people that use it too much. But this, when you go in to have a baby, they have a lot of false positives for THC. They're going to take your kid. Nobody's telling mothers this. They're preying on you. There's not any public service announcements. Hey, don't smoke pot or we'll take your kid when you come in to have it. They want to snatch your baby. They're going to sell it for adoption for $500,000. Now, let's go now to our guest to go through the saga of what's happened. Steve and Maria Green, whose child was kidnapped by, quote, armed gunmen. The armed gunmen in the case were the police, along with their government officials, not servants, from the state of Michigan. Maria and Steve are medical marijuana because of multiple sclerosis and epilepsy, which it's on record helping both, but are registered with the state of Michigan, which they use to grab the kid, and submit to random drug tests. See, they tell you now you can have your marijuana, but you waive your rights. It's even worse. All this decriminalization is a total fraud. They'll just go back to being illegal. I'm telling you, folks, nothing that comes out of George Soros is going to turn out to be good. Guys, thank you for coming on. FreeBabyBree.com. Thank you so much. Now you've been hearing me rant about all the things that are going on. You got the floor. Tell us what happened, what you've gone through, and where this is going, because there is a war against legal marijuana users in this country.
Yeah, thank you for having us on. My husband has been a medical marijuana patient since 2010 for his seizures. That he had seizures since 2006, and you know, this was one of the only things left for him to try to control his seizures, and it turns out it worked really amazing. He ended up being seizure-free for quite some time, and last summer, towards the end of the summer, I had a bitter ex who called CPS against us just to try and gain leverage in a custody case, and it spiraled out of control from there. They came to investigate. They wanted to count the plants, and you know, they needed to see the plants and see all the medical records from all of the patients that I grow for, and on and on. We even brought them, our baby at the time was 6 months old, and we brought the investigator to our baby. We showed her out on the porch, and she wasn't really even interested in seeing the baby. She just really just wanted to see the plants. And through the course of her investigation, we invited her and her supervisor and the agency to get a court order to come into the home, because our laws here in Michigan would not allow for me to give access to those plants to anybody else. And they left saying, okay, yes, that's what they would do. They would petition the court to enter our home. And the morning that was supposed to happen, they called me and said, you know, I just want to go over one last time whether or not you're going to let us in your house before we petition to remove your kids. And so they pulled this fast one on us, and we went into court that afternoon. with them bringing a petition not to enter the house, but to remove our children. And the judge at the time, the referee, he heard a little bit of testimony, and in the end, he said that he was really just concerned that there was plants growing in the house, and even though I was legal to do so, he thought that that would increase our chances of having armed robbery and that the baby could get hurt.
That's an incredible precedent that if you have a nice car or a nice watch or computers or anything they want, now you've got to have your children taken for safety, of course, and be given to government custody where they're 7 times in more danger of everything you can imagine.
Yep. Absolutely. And it ended up taking us 6 weeks of fighting her being out of the home. We were able to visit her for a couple hours every week, and it took us 6 weeks to be able to get her back.
Wow, just incredible. And again, how old was your daughter?
She was 6 months at the time she was taken.
How was her? How was she when you got her back? Most of the time, the children are just lost weight or in critical condition in many cases.
Thankfully, she was so young. We did notice that she was quite gun shy, didn't like strangers anymore, was a little bit more antsy and anxious and that kind of thing. She thankfully snapped out of it relatively quickly.
She bounced back against the enemy?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's what these people are, is they're the enemy. We have to recognize that. So expanding on this, where did it all go from there?
From there, they gave her back to us with the condition that we had to do this parenting counseling type thing. And as long as we were successful with that, then they would just drop the case altogether.
Yeah, but that's usually going to be their people who can then do whatever. So they act like they're the good guys when they've kidnapped your child. But you guys went public. I think you only got her back. Most parents don't because you went public.
Absolutely. Towards the end, when they decided that they were going to give her back, as long as we did these conditions, and they at first gave us a pretty lengthy list of conditions, and we went back to them and said, no, there's some of these you need to change, and they did very quickly. So we got the impression that they just kind of wanted to wash their hands of the whole case.
Yeah, they got other kids to grab they need to move on to. And again, not all family courts are like this. Not all systems are like this. It tends to be certain states or counties. But we need to really go after the people that act like this so that judicially it's known as unacceptable in the community that, you know, either a country supports death penalty, it doesn't support it. It's about a moral decision of the people of the nation. We obviously don't want people taken because they have legal medical marijuana being grown in the home. Big deal. Did George Washington, you know, have his family taken away because he grew it? You know George Washington grew medical marijuana, right?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So, I mean, I'm just sick of it. I mean, it's known for toothaches. It's known for people that are nauseous, glaucoma. It's known to change the brain waves in a lot of people that have epilepsy, as you guys were just talking about. You know, let's talk to your husband, Steve Green. Steve, talk about what it was like when they came, what they did. What was it like to see your daughter taken? I mean, describe that process, and then tell us what it did for both of your medical conditions.
Yeah, as a father and a husband, you know, you can't imagine the amount of reserve it takes to not, for lack of a better word, clobber them. But when someone's trying to take your children, you know, there's nothing but rage that goes through you. But we were, you know, just able to keep collected and stay calm, and knowing that, you know, if one of us were arrested for acting irrational or something like that.
Hey, I bet the marijuana after they left helped settle you down. Medical use there is to sedate you.
And so it was just a nightmare for that to happen, but we knew we had to stay that way. And shortly after, we went to the doorsteps of DHS with about 200 people. And
let's say that again. How many people? DHS?
Yeah, we went to the main office of the DHS with about 200 protesters.
But the DHS was involved in this.
Yeah, that's the Department of Human Services runs CPS in our state.
Unbelievable. Please continue with it.
And so we, like you said, we hit the press and we made it public because we were outraged and we knew that, you know, most Americans would be.
And by the way, anytime somebody takes somebody's child because they smoke marijuana or whatever, we should have people rallying like we're going to Frankenstein's castle to tell them we're not putting up with this scum. I mean, this is what it's about. We hang together or hang separate. You get aggressive, you get a free country back. On guns, on marijuana, on parental rights, on father's rights, on everything. People better learn to stand up. I'm sorry I'm ranting, sir.
No, you're good. You a lot of things, even in the intro, you hit the nail on the head with prescription drugs. And here in Michigan, if you decide to be a medical marijuana patient, or in my case, have to be because nothing else worked, then you pretty much give up your right to own a gun. And in CPS's eyes here in Michigan, if you're a medical marijuana patient, you give up your Fourth Amendment. They're allowed to just come on in and search whatever they want.
Yeah, see, if I was having epilepsy, we're going to break. I want to come back and give you the floor. But if I was having epilepsy, I'm not waiving my Fourth Amendment. I'll go buy pot on the street. I mean, I cannot believe that they do this to people, making you waive your rights. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's kind of amazing that they put all these restrictions in place. But yeah, we pushed forward and had a great rally. A bunch of women got held hands and sang songs.
Yeah, I notice it's women standing up in this country most of the time. Go ahead.
Yeah, that was, from what I understand, the movement in prohibition of alcohol, and it looks like that's the movement here in medical marijuana and marijuana. So it's great to see so many women and moms came out from everywhere. We were, you know, getting calls from CPS agents that work for the same agency that were saying they were appalled, and, you know, it was...
and see, it's that moral saying no. The moral calling it out is what will dispel these vipers. Stay there. The Green family, child kidnapped for 6 hellish weeks because they needed medical marijuana and legally did it.
Jones.
The war on drugs is a giant fraud. Most of the narcotics are shipped in by the big banks. On record, they don't get in trouble when they get caught laundering hundreds of billions of dollars, like Wells Fargo, Wachovia, Bank of America. You pull up hundreds of mainstream news articles breaking that down. Wachovia, Wells Fargo laundered in a 3-year period, what was it, between 2007 and 2010, $380+ billion. $387 billion. And got a $111 million fine. We did the math. That'd be like if you robbed millions of dollars and paid a couple $1,000 fine. I mean, you start robbing banks immediately if you were an immoral person, right? So it's just a total fraud. I mean, we know that birds eat fermented berries and get drunk and seek the berries out. We know bats do it. Are we going to arrest them? I'm drinking coffee right now. Wake Up America Blend America coffee. Wake Up America coffee from InfoWars. I mean, that's a stimulant. Am I evil? Am I bad? Obviously, this stuff's all abused. But the reason it's dirty is because you've made it illegal, then it's underground, and then the criminal elements involved. And they're the ones that are nasty. You want to dispel narcotics? Decriminalize them. Control them like prescription drugs. Stuff like marijuana, decriminalize it. My problem is all over the country, they've got these state laws and federal edicts where you basically waive your rights to go into this. And marijuana is a miracle plant. The cannabinoids, all the stuff involved in it. I've been involved in documentaries. I've seen the studies. I mean, it's mainline stuff. Big Pharma knows this. They're making hundreds of drugs out of it right now and patenting it. This is CNN right here. And we're going back to our guest. Marijuana stops child's severe seizures. She was having 300 a week and was going to be completely brain damaged and basically die. I mean, I've watched my uncle have seizures over the last 30-something years, and you know, they mess him up. But he's reduced them with drugs and a fatty diet, you know, coconut oil, things like that. And they've even, again, but the mainline doctors won't tell you, go get a medical marijuana thing. It's been found in double-blind studies across the board with many different types of epileptic disorders that are on the rise, by the way, with our toxic environment. It's been found to massively reduce them. She was having 300 grand mal seizures a week. Her heart had stopped a number of times, and it reduced it down Where is that in the article? How many a week? Didn't it say 5 a week? Yes. Mike's not clear, guys. Like I told you. 3 to 4. Thanks. Yeah, there it is in the article. 3 to 4. And that's the issue that the system is trying to block here. That for all the ways they're poisoning us, God has given us all these great plants that can do these amazing things. And Big Pharma, under Codex Alimentarius, wants to shut this down. But not just marijuana. They've had raids on different herbal growing facilities with things like aloe vera. I saw that a few years ago, claiming someone could use it as a drug. I mean, they just want to control the resources. Now, going back to Steve and Marie Green, they started freebabybree.com, a foundation to help fight the CPS when they kidnap children for medical marijuana and other issues. And this is great. There's lots of other organizations out there as well. And this is where the data and the case histories and the game plans can be distributed to others and up their learning curve to where people know how to fight and know their rights. So it's wonderful. So Steve and Marie Green, break down the rest of the story. What else happened? And what happened when you went and marched against the DHS?
Yeah, so that's exactly what we did. We had a bunch of people show up. We did the songs, the protests, the signs. The news came out in droves. And we got looks out of pretty much every window in the high-rise building. We had people for blocks around that would come and ask what was going on. And then from there on, it was just an outpour of court support, both from a group called the Human Solution and just the community members in our area. We had 30, 40 people at each court date. And when you're talking about, a CPS type of thing, they normally try to restrict that and not allow very many people and make it as secretive as possible. So we avoided that. And I think that was a key element in getting Bree back. And so we wrote out that process and went back in front of the judge, and he made some statements like when you're convicted and, just some very biased-seeming statements. And then after we proved ourselves and the media was in the courtroom filming and everything, he never came back out of the courtroom or out of his chambers again. But they did in chambers come to a decision that they would give Bree back. Since then, we've had an independent report done by the state ombudsman report, and they had some findings that CPS made some errors and things like that. So it looks like we're going to be, keep screaming from the top of our lungs, and we've been able to help several other families in Michigan that were caught up in this type of situation. And I think that's important for the real Americans and communities to stick together when things are happening, and it would outrage you if it happened to you. Remember, we're all together in this and stick up for each other.
Well, again, it just shows how predatory this system is, and they're persecuting people across this country. We have the largest prison population in the country, in the world. And it's only growing, and they're just finding new ways to throw nonviolent people in jail while all these huge crimes are being committed across the board. We had a case up in Round Rock last year where a toddler died in CPS captivity after being taken from marijuana-smoking parents because the neighbors smelled it. And I want to point, it's these rat neighbors. It's like this case CBS News is reporting on in Maryland where the tree trimming company was looking through the guy's window at his house and saw he had a tattoo of a gun on him, so the SWAT team came for the tattoo. And it just shows that it's just a culture of weird snitches everywhere that literally, like, their dream is to call the knight in shining armor the SWAT team on anybody and everybody, or everybody gets back at each other with the system, and it's wrecking our culture. It's and hurting children. So, I wonder what the people that, called the CPS on you feel about the little baby being drug off and all this. I wonder how that feels. I wonder if that feels good.
Well, it was actually her ex-husband. They were in a custody battle over her shared son. When she went to court the day before, the judge ruled in my wife's favor the following day, the ex-husband called CPS and filed the complaint with his false accusations, and so
exactly. But I'm saying, look at the collateral damage, though, to a child that's not even related. It's just, I wouldn't call the system in, folks, unless it's an emergency.
Oh, but he was eating it up. He's smug about it. This is a very sinister person.
Well, I don't want to get off of the whole family stuff, but I know that gets nasty. But all I'm saying is that this snitch culture is out of control. What was it like when baby Bree was returned to you guys?
It was a big party, pretty much. We got her back. There was a return policy, and we completed that. We got her back. We weren't allowed to have any media when we got her.
Because they're God.
Right. So right after that, we went to our lawyer's office, and we had a conference and celebration. And, like you said, it happens all over the country. CNN did a follow-up piece in Napa, California, where they have removed a 11-month-old, and they're still fighting for jurisdiction there. And this just happens everywhere, and you don't hear much about it because they scare people so badly that most people won't speak out. So I think it's imperative that, like you said, groups that are helping out stand up and help the little people out. In my case, I was on 30 pharmaceutical drugs and still having grand mal seizures a couple times a week. And when I got on the medical marijuana and took it in a capsule, like a pill, like a herbal pill, when I would do that, I went 18 months without a seizure at all. And that's longer than I ever did on any of the 30 different pharmaceutical drugs that just made it worse.
You're absolutely right. It just really has miracle effects, and this is why they're trying to block herbs, minerals, vitamins, natural plants, because this is from the earth. These are God's gifts. These hundreds of millions of different types of plants and animals and things that are on this earth for us to be able to take care of ourselves. But instead, they want to play God. They want to come in with their big pharma and rule over everyone. Steve and Maria Green, freebabybreed.com for folks that want to get involved and help you guys defend other families that are going through this nightmare. God bless you, and I appreciate your courage, because I've battled CPS as a media person myself, and it's so painful to see the crimes they commit and the things they do that it's duty that I just cannot physically get involved in, because it tears me up too bad. To see the enjoyment of taking the kids, the system preying on people, it's dealing with child kidnappers who are in power and who are on a power trip and who just are having their way with people. And it makes me physically sick. So you're doing God's work. Make no mistake about that.
Thank you.
Thank you for talking about it, Alex.
No, thank you. You guys are simply amazing. God bless you. Well, there you go, folks. There goes the Green family. And thanks to all your support out there, you've had a victory against them. You got to wear your colors loud and proud, folks. I'm going to do a plug, and then I'm going to get into all the news that I haven't covered yet. I was also going to get into 10 ways that women are under attack by the system, an article that tied into the war on men last month. Paul Watson's done another one. Here it is. I found it, so I want to get into that as well. But this Rand Paul concerned about who is truly in charge of our government is groundbreaking, and I want to read some quotes from that. Excuse me. Now, continuing here today, I wanted to just briefly show you what I think is the best T-shirt we've ever put out. Now, previously, it was the man's Molon Labe Come and Take It Spartan helmet with 2 crossed M4s with a victory wreath around it, with Infowars.com on the back, Made in America. But now we have come out with the woman's Made in America shirt with gold foil. And this has got to be the best looking gun shirt ever. And I've never said that about one of our shirts, that this is the best shirt out there, period. You've seen me produce and design myself, and others design a lot of shirts, a lot of great shirts at InfoWarsStore.com that we help fund the operation with and promote liberty. But this baby, the woman's gold Molon Labe, is made in America and is absolutely gorgeous on women. Absolutely gorgeous on women. And it's a female-style shirt, so it's form-fitting. It's got an athletic fit. So a medium is more like a small. And it is extremely popular and continues to sell out over and over again as helping fund the operation. I love it. There are just women everywhere wearing gorgeous, sexy Second Amendment apparel. This is how we're going to win the culture war, is with the women. That's why the system tries to speak for women. That's why the system tries to run women. That's why the system tries to claim they speak for women. We get enough women out there promoting the Second Amendment, the men will follow. And it's starting to happen. Women are getting into guns. They're the biggest buyers the last decade straight. It was in the Wall Street Journal last week of guns. Women are buying guns. Women are shooting intruders. They're shooting rapists. They're shooting people that try to rob their businesses. And Gloria Steinem hates it. She says women shouldn't own guns, even though that pig has concealed carry on record, just like Dianne Feinstein. So this is what we're talking about. I mean, if you're really for women being empowered, then, you know, you go get your wife to take jiu-jitsu or kickboxing or golden gloves, or take them out, get them shooting. You know, we got Leanne going to take a concealed carry in about a week and a half. We've been henpecking on her. The guys have to get in there and get that. We need women carrying firearms. We need criminals to be scared. And that's because I'm anti-woman. That's why I want all these black cities where guns are banned, because it's totally racist. The Democrats would never want blacks to be armed. We want to get the inner city, good people armed, like in Detroit, Michigan, to then shoot the criminals. And the police chief agrees with us. We're beginning to win. The head of Interpol's come out and said arm the general public. And that's what it comes down to, ladies and gentlemen, is the image of a real empowered woman who loves her husband, loves her children, loves her boyfriend, and understands humanity is one group. Men and women form humanity. Men and women are not separate, folks. In fact, speaking of that, let me just hit that article right now, or parts of it, by Paul Joseph Watson, but that T-shirt is available at InfoWarsStore.com. And then it's a platform to support folks that are trying to stop the child kidnappers. That's why you support free media, because it's a war. They're trying to shut us down on record and all other alternative media. 10 ways true feminism is under attack. Number 1, feminism was hijacked by the political class to exploit women. And Paul Watson details that and documents it. Number 2, the CIA played a key role in hijacking feminism. Gloria Steinem on record was a CIA operative. They wanted to break up the family, get the kids for themselves in state control. Cultural Marxism, divide and conquer, all the documents on that. Number 4, mainstream feminism ignores real women's rights issues like Muslims torturing and killing and enslaving women in Iraq, you name it, radical Muslims, but then saying men shouldn't say the word bossy is hurtful to women. Henpecking at us over nothing, wanting to dominate us while not caring about real women's issues worldwide. Number 5, feminists ignore the plight of Muslim women. Just mentioned that, but it ties into the other one. Number 6, advertising targets women. And why do they target it? Because women make about 84% of the decisions in most purchases. Hitler said, first you get the women, then you got the children, so follow the men. Number 7, mainstream feminism is about hating and disintegrating masculinity. Number 8, women are being brainwashed that femininity and motherhood are dirty words. We show documentation of that. The happiest women out there, folks, are women with children. Now, they've set the economy up where it's so hard and the culture's so evil that it gets really stressful. But still, it's the most rewarding thing. Number 9, the real war on women, plunging fertility rates with chemical warfare. Number 10, estrogen mimickers causing cancer, targeting women. It's a simple article with a lot of links. It's up on drudgereport.com. And where was that on Drudge? I want to put drudgereport.com on screen for TV viewers and show people where they can link to that if they're watching us on live time right now. Again, I am your host, Alex Jones, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you, I love women. I love my mama. I love my grandmother. I just absolutely love women, and I love my daughters, and I don't want to see them being enslaved by the system. But the system has set it up to tell women, you're the boss, and here's your talking points from the mainstream media. Men are dumb, you know, men can't even tie their shoelaces and all the sitcoms and dramas, and you take control, you know how to run things best. And they take the bait. Most women are the ones that fall for divorce. I'm not saying there isn't some bad men out there and reasons for it in many cases, but you can see the general aggregate cause is it's destroying this country and destroying civilization. And men have been turned into a bunch of Arrested Development, sports-watching, jock-sniffing, cowardly little fake tough garbage, and need to man up and start acting like men not like a bunch of twits. We'll be right back with more news. Stay with us.
Silver has always been nature's...
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us.
Got the blues about
China deploys drones to spy on polluting industries. That's the cover for Spy on Everybody. Drones to scout over skies of Beijing and other cities to check for smog sources and spot environmental breaches selectively against businesses not owned by the Communist Party. Continuing, court says FBI secret GPS tracking memos can stay secret from the government. States black toner shortage as primary motivation. That is absolutely ridiculous. Continuing here with the news, there is some good news out of Ukraine. Ukraine is making plans to pull troops from Crimea. So some of that is de-escalating, and that is certainly a good news. I hope John McCain doesn't get his way to his 11-point plan for war. We've got those reports, and I mentioned this earlier, but I want to get more into this right now and really end this broadcast with this information. This is up on Infowars.com if you just joined us. Rand Paul concerned about who is truly in charge of our government. Libertarian Kentucky Senator Rand Paul warns in a speech today that he believes U.S. spooks and shadow government agencies are drunk with power and that elected representatives are privately afraid of those operating behind the curtain. In a scheduled appearance at the University of California, Berkeley, who Paul is now the head Republican in the polls for president, Paul will address the continuing domestic spying controversy. In prepared comments, Paul notes, "I am honestly worried, concerned about who is truly in charge of our government. Most of you have read the dystopian nightmare, and maybe, like me, you doubted that it could ever happen in America. If the CIA," quoting Paul, "if the CIA is spying on Congress, who exactly can or will stop them?" The comments also state, "I look into the eyes of senators, and I think I see real fear. Maybe it's just my imagination, but I think I perceive fear of an intelligence community drunk with power, unrepentant, and uninclined to relinquish power." Yeah, that's the history of the world. The senator is set to continue on the track that saw him win the CPAC GOP presidential nomination straw poll recently. During a CPAC speech, Paul slammed the NSA, urging, "If you have a cell phone, you are under surveillance. I believe what you do on your cell phone is none of their damn business." See, it's just straight talk, folks. That's what people want. And he won the big poll, and he's catapulted into the lead poll position to be El Presidente. I mean, this is what people want, is tell it like it is, not play patty cake with the tyrants. Ubiquitous voice surveillance, quoting Paul, even overseas, pulls in a great deal of content from Americans whose telephone, visit, and work in the target community, the Post reports. Present and former U.S. officials acknowledge that large numbers of conversations involving Americans would be gathered from the country where they operate. Folks, that's all a whitewash. They record everything. They lied and said they recorded nothing, got caught. They're using it for data mining. It's all happening. It's being used to target the Associated Press, Fox News, Drudge Report, InfoWars. It's happening everywhere. You know, enemies list, government watching us. 4 years have come out showing that. I'm on the enemies list. That came out 4 years ago. I mean, this is what's going on. They have Media Matters run by the White House attacking me every week. MSNBC. I mean, this is these people are literally usurping scum. I mean, that's what it is. And no eating around the edges is going to beat these people. Just absolutely saying you're illegitimate criminal scum, and I expect you to blow stuff up and blame it on us. And when you do, well, we're going to have reporters there and people to videotape it. We're going to catch you. Just like Fast and Furious, just like Benghazi, just like Oklahoma City, just like all the rest of it. We know who you murderers are. We know who the criminal hijackers are. There's a lot of good people in government and corporations that don't like what's happening either. And the people are waking up. So back off, criminal globalist. Back off now.